Get this on the Triple M network.
People often say about this program, what you need on that show is someone who knows more about obscure TV shows. There's not enough talk of it on this program, especially in the second hour.
Time to address the balance.
Please welcome Andrew Mercado.
Hello, sir.
I do actually feel like I'm with my people here now. I listen to you guys and you say, now this is something obscure, no one will know this, and I think, I do.
Well, see, every time we say that, 100 people will phone up to give us more information.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there who remember a lot of stuff. Now, what exactly is your involvement with Umbrella Entertainment, who we're big fans of, because they bring a lot of old stuff out on DVD?
They do. Umbrella believe that no market is too small for a DVD release, which I love.
that.
And the other thing that's great about them is they believe you've got to give it context. So they
Right.
don't just want to put it out cynically and go, there's 100 episodes. They go, find the actors, do a doco, do an audio commentary, get some context as to why this show was important, whether it's good or bad.
Beautiful. I see now what you're doing is E Street.
Yeah.
E Street, but you're focusing in on the Mr. Bad years.
Yep.
Now, for obviously a lot of people driving around will go, I remember that. That was that bloke with the sort of black and silver makeup on his face. For those who don't, firstly, what was E Street and who was Mr. Bad?
E Street was a sort of late 80s, early 90s soap that Ten did about a group of funky young kids living at Balmain
Yes.
with a priest, Reverend Bob, who
That
was sort of
Tony,
cool,
Tony
right?
Martin, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah,
Tony
totally
Martin.
right. And what happened was it was actually the show that has now turned Channel 10 into what it is now, because Channel 10 went into receivership.
Right.
And they the only show that kind of survived all of that was E Street. And it showed Channel 10 that, hey, maybe we should go for the 18 to 35
So
mark.
what you're saying is Tony Martin saved Channel 10.
Basically.
Fantastic.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And Marcus Graham, wasn't he like the bikie or something?
Well, he was wheels.
Oh,
He was
right.
in a wheelchair,
Oh,
and then he
was he?
found his feet, because
Okay.
you're always doing a soap.
Motorcycle, wheelchair, one of those.
Yeah. And he started walking, and then he put on a leather jacket and sort of went into a rock and roll band like everyone else in the show
Right,
did.
right.
That's absolutely right. And Tony Perrin was in there, was she not?
Yes, Tony Perrin played a character called Tony. Now there's casting.
Whoa, hang on a
Tony as Tony.
And she was in, what was it, The Liquidators?
That's exactly the
Which
name
was
of her
kind
group.
of a new romantic synth pop outfit from memory.
Yeah, look, she was leading the band for a while. Then she has a bit of a tantrum. She leaves the band, and then we move into the Melissa Couts era. Melissa
Melissa
Couts
Couts
takes
era.
over singing in
right.
East Street.
Fantastic. Wow. What is that near the Pippa Grandison era?
Pippa Grandison comes after Mr.
I
Bad.
like Pippa
You're,
Grandison.
you're a bit early, Richard.
I love Pippa Grandison.
And where was the centre of the action, you know, the Lassiters, the bunnies of E Street?
Patchett's Pub.
That's right.
Of course.
Run by Ernie Patchett. And then when he'd go away to make a movie, they'd bring in Joan Sidney as his cousin, sometimes
wow.
Bunny Brooke. You know.
Gee, you're going back. And Mr. Bad, so he was like a serial killer, or was he a... It was like the bloke on Twin Peaks, Bob, really,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, he had an alternate personality. He started off as a friendly karate teacher, teaching kids.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, Kate Raison starts having nightmares about a childhood birthday party she attended. And suddenly the karate teacher is painting his face silver and black and is a serial killer called Mr. Bag, and he starts stalking them all and kills many of the characters.
How many does he get? Because I remember him getting about 4 or 5.
That's about the number,
Which is
yeah.
quite a lot for a soap. I mean, Greg Fleet only got rid of Daphne before they got rid of him. You know,
It was a lot for 7:30 at night, put it that way.
Absolutely.
Really, really pushed the boundaries for a 7:30 time slot.
Now, what I love is you've got this 5-disc set.
Yep.
5-disc set, The Best of Mr. Bad, Volume 1.
I know.
There's more coming, isn't there?
Mr. Bad's reign goes on and on. 21-hour chronological episodes only get us halfway through the killing. Volume 2 will take us up to his first demise. But let's not forget that Mr. Bad then comes back. If it sells well, we do Volume 3. He then comes back in the hospital and he wears a sort of a sack on his head that just shows one eye because it's a different actor now.
Oh, of course.
The actor doesn't actually speak English, but then it's not important. Mr. Bad's mute
Right.
in his second incarnation.
and nobody thinks that the man with the bag on his head with one eye in a hospital might be up to something.
They assume because he seems a little bit comatose that if he won't come back from the dead. But of course, we know that all serial killers like Jason in Friday the 13th and all of these people always come back to kill again.
Now, it was Vince Martin, who New Zealanders are certainly familiar with, and I think he was in the Bow Repairs ads for many years and a set of blue overalls.
Yes, I do remember that.
Now, what are you saying? He wasn't willing to come back?
No, he'd had enough. I think schoolgirls screaming him on the street going, "It's Mr. Bad," and probably screaming in horror, I would add there. There were a lot of school children quite traumatised by Mr. Bad in the day. We giggle about it now, but there were young children watching Easter Egg thinking it was this happy show with little Brooke Mikey Anderson in her overalls, and then suddenly there's a serial killer giving them nightmares.
And you don't want to have that name hanging over your neck either.
Mr. Bad.
In the boudoir. Oh, it's Mr. Bad.
Oh, man.
You can say that again. All right. Andrew, you've written this fantastic book, Super Aussie Soaps. You're involved in putting out these great old DVDs through Umbrella. Are you involved in this, the 50th anniversary of TV exhibition at the Powerhouse in Sydney?
Yes, look, I gave them a little bit of my memorabilia.
Oh, what did you slip them?
They got my number 96 and the box movie posters. And I'm telling you, that one-sheet day bill for number 96, very rare. Very rare.
That exhibition is touring all around Australia this year, so you don't have to be in Sydney to see it. And they called us up because they wanted to include some Barjas footage. Oh. And I just went, I love the idea that Barjas is in a museum.
Yeah, brilliant.
Celebrating 50 years of excellence.
Fart gags ringing out.
And, of course, at the end of this week, Barjas and the Olden Days finally out on DVD.
Brilliant.
All the rights have been cleared, but look at the stuff that's finally coming out. I mean, we've talked about E Street, the best of Mr. Bad. What have you got in that pile?
Sons and Daughters, the best of Pat the Rat.
Now, hang on, Sons and Daughters. That show, I remember when I first came to Australia, I loved the theme song because they packed just too many emotions into the song. Love and laughter, happiness and betrayal and sadness and...
Really made you want to watch.
There's a long list, way too many emotions to be in one line of a song.
Yeah.
You focused in on just the Pat the Rat years.
We just went to Rowena Wallace because there's one of the greatest storylines ever on Australian TV. Rowena Wallace leaves the show, and so they send the character off to Rio de Janeiro, and she gets bashed there. She has plastic surgery. Then a bandaged woman with a really bad dubbing voice of Rowena Wallace says, "Remake my face," in a much deeper voice, of course. She comes back to Sydney Airport as Belinda Giblin. She's about a foot shorter.
Fantastic.
But, you know, nobody recognises it except for Charlie's dog, Isabella. The poodle picks it.
Now, speaking of TV dogs, Andrew, I want to bring this up with you. Any chance of the Bouncer storyline from Neighbours making an appearance on DVD? Because I cried like a baby the day that Bouncer went with Mrs. Mangle because she cheated.
Yeah.
Any chance?
Well, you'd want the dream sequence too,
Big
wouldn't
time.
you, where Bouncer got married?
Absolutely.
You know.
Oh, that was bizarre.
That was a real episode. I didn't dream that. I saw it.
Yeah. And the Young Doctors, which years have you focused in for that?
Well, basically all of them. I basically cherry-picked bizarre episodes throughout the entire 6-year run because there's about 1,400 episodes of The Young Doctors.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was watching your DVD, Barjas.
Oh, yes.
And I was listening to the audio commentary, and then it got to the point, if you haven't been listening to the audio commentary of the olden days, you have to take it out now and you start from the beginning. So I did that. I didn't really have time, but I did that. I did as you said.
It's a
I
very
went to the olden days.
It's a very bossy commentary track, I'll give you that.
And of course, there on the commentary track was the revelation that you did want to do the Young Doctors
Well,
first.
that's true. We tried to, we did Rush.
Which is something I've always thought it was crying out for.
Well, we'd done Rush the first year on The Late Show. There's the olden days. And then we were going to do the Young Doctors. It was going to be called Medical Hospital. And we started nutting it out. And then, is it Grundy's who owns the rights?
Grundy's owns the rights.
Yeah,
Channel 9 originally screened it.
They said to us, we reckon there's one more play in the Young Doctors.
You know the tragedy in that? They never
They never
replayed
did
it.
it.
It's the only show that's never ever got a rerun on Australian TV.
Well, we had to start from scratch, and that's why we did Barjas, and that's why there were only 10 episodes, because we were sort of behind the 8 ball. But, as I say, if it wasn't for the Young Doctors potentially getting another run...
you could still be doing the Young Doctors today.
It would never
is what
have
you're
been-
saying.
it would
It never would have stopped.
That's right. But, yeah, okay, the Young Doctors. I'm just trying to think what the other shows were that we were thinking of dubbing over. You've got Chances in your pile.
Oh, now look at this. I want
see
to bring this up with you, Andrew. Now, you know when there's something fruity in a photograph in a forum where you can't show that, they have to put little, like Warwick Capper in Zoo, his bits are obscured by a modesty football. Now, on the front cover of the DVD of Chances, there's no less than 14 little yellow stars obscuring rude bits.
Wow.
Now, that is a guarantee, kids, that you're going to see some stuff.
Yeah, I actually think it's some sort of law you're not allowed to show. We couldn't even show part of Abigail Abigail's nipple on the number 96 box. There was this magnificent shot, and the broadcasting control board or whoever handled DVDs, they wouldn't even let us show part of the nipple. If you look really closely, we've had to cover it up.
Oh, the Norg Advisory Board has stepped in. Okay, now this is, this is obviously a huge passion of yours, writing about these shows, talking about them, but you've actually worked on them as well.
I have, yeah.
Now, it says here in your bio that you worked on Paradise Beach and Pacific Drive. What was the difference?
No breakers? What happened?
No breakers, no. I'd had enough of coast-based soapies at that point, actually.
What was your role?
Well, I was location manager on Paradise Beach.
Oh, the most underrated job on any film crew.
The guy that needs to be there first thing in the morning
absolutely.
to park the trucks.
Yeah. Oh.
So the morning I got out of bed at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, I thought, I'm not doing that for the rest of my life.
No.
So I walked around the set and went, where's a job where I could be have a little bit more fun? And I came to this room where there were two girls with their feet up on the desk reading TV Week. I said, what do you do? They said, we're the publicists. I said, I'm going to be the publicist. So that's how I became the publicist on Pacific Drive.
And as a publicist, did you have to do much spin? Did you have to take some, disastrous incident and turn it into something good for the press?
I spinned Pacific Drive into the most amazing television show. I got it into every magazine. I even got it into Australasian Post.
Wow.
It was unheard of, but I found an angle.
How did you do that?
I can't remember. The thing about Pacific Drive was it was sort of nutty for its day. So you could sort of sell it in that, hey, now we've got this serial killer, Yeah. So it was a joy to photograph, put it this way. The guy who was our unit photographer would come up to me and go, what do we got this week? And I'd go, you ain't going to believe it. We had so much weird stuff to photograph on that show. Every week.
Andrew Mercado is Australia's own Indiana Jones. He was just telling us quite straight-facedly that he's gone to 3 different continents looking for missing episodes of number 96.
Yes.
And you tracked down a filth reel.
Yeah. Sadly, we couldn't actually find the filth reel. We found the paperwork to say that every offensive scene of number 96 had been put onto this master reel. So only the people in Sydney had seen the dirty bits, and then the rest of the country had been missing out. All this paperwork to say what was there, the black mass sequence, Abigail in the nude.
Hey.
Can't find the reel now.
So it's like the final scene of Cinema Paradiso, but fruity version. Somewhere that reel is getting around. Now, Andrew is advising the good folk at Umbrella Entertainment, and he's advised them to put out the very best of Mr. Bad from E Street on DVD. 5-disc set, and that's just volume 1.
Can I throw 2 names at you right now, Andrew? Potluck.
Potluck I think only ran for 10 months in 1987. This is not Pot of Gold.
No. This is the one with Ernie Sigley as the judge with Bernard King.
Yes.
It was 1987, I think, all shot in Adelaide.
That's right.
And as I was, it was explained to me that the axe came straight off the street.
This is what we're looking
Straight off the street and into the studio. No filtering, no auditioning, no Kyle.
It was live as well, wasn't it?
for. Put them on.
Yeah. It's been discussed.
Really?
I'm putting it to the top of the list now.
Yeah.
It is there. We've talked about whether or not we should do sort of like a whole bunch of Grundy's quiz shows because they do have quite an assortment. I'd love to see like an episode of Great Temptation, which was the version of Sale of the Century before Temptation, back in like 1972 when they were giving away crock pots and stuff as the main prize.
I'd love to see some of these great old game shows where they gave away cartons of cigarettes. That was a fantastic era
Cigarillos.
of Australia. Or cigarillos.
What about kids' game shows such as Matchmates? And how about Now You See It with Mike Mead, wherein the major prize was a computer for your school, for your entire school.
Yeah, what a rip-off.
What a rip-off.
Okay, how about I got 3.5 words for you. It's a knockout.
What? No, almost anything goes first.
Yeah, well, every time It's a Knockout is mentioned, the Almost Anything Goes lobby group get on the phone.
Well.
Now, you mentioned a great one off here, Andrew. You mentioned Arcade.
Yeah, one of my favourites. It is actually sitting on a Channel 10 executive's desk at the moment.
Right.
We're waiting for the all clear ahead for that. Arcade, in my opinion, is the most memorable Australian television flop of all time. They spent $1 million on constructing a shopping mall interior set.
Wow.
And then when the show was at 6 weeks later, it was shoved out the back of the studio. And when the people at Channel 10 came into work on Monday morning, there was a sign on it that said free firewood. $1 million set
You could
put into
actually-
the barbecue.
You could see that sign in certain scenes on the show. It's being dismantled as it went to air. I know if Tom Gleisner was here, he would be pushing for a show called Barassi's World, which was a series of nature documentaries introduced by footy coach Ron Barassi.
Was this a Melbourne thing only? do
I'm
you
not
think?
sure, but he
No,
saw
I
it.
remember it.
Ed remembers
Yeah,
it.
I've seen some of it.
And he could throw to any kind of documentary with football terminology.
That's right.
So it would be like, the Incas, they had guts and determination.
Maybe that's what Eddie Maguire should be doing at Channel 9 now.
That's right. It was like the Amazon, longer than the fourth quarter, running into the wind.
So many great shows. I'm sure the listeners can go better. Just before we get to the callers, the phones have exploded, have they not, Richard?
Yeah, the Henderson Kids. Is that out? That's
Yeah,
from,
the Henderson Kids is out, actually.
Yes. Okay.
Sadly, no special features, but it's out there.
and that's from Regina. She was very keen. And on a personal level, Chopper Squad.
Oh, you know what, Richard?
Chopper
Got the go-ahead last Friday.
Chopper Squad.
Our version of Baywatch. They stole that idea from us.
Yeah.
What year are we
Let's face
talking?
it.
I don't remember this one.
Late
82 or-
78.
No, mid-70s. Yeah,
Mid-70s.
actually 77, I reckon.
I used to, a guy I mentioned in my book, Lolly Scramble, also still available, my Geordie typography instructor, he was obviously from the UK, and the word chopper over there has a different meaning completely. And he just would collapse into laughter when he saw it happen. Chopper Squad, what's that? Cops running around with a duck suit. It's going to be great.
And from that, we meet Gary.
And
Hello,
apparently
Gary.
He was Scottish as well.
How are you, Gary?
Gary.
Not bad, how they hanging?
Well, they're hanging great. And
Choppers are fine.
what would you like to see out on DVD, my friend?
Skyways.
Skyways. What are you...
Gaynor Martin. Oh.
And possibly available now. No, that's a very cruel thing
Playing
to
a
say.
schoolgirl, no less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Keep it clean.
Becomes a hostie.
Now, what else? Was this Kylie and Jason? Were they in that as well?
They did appear in it together. Their first on-screen duo as stowaways on a plane, Kylie and Jason.
G'day, Brad. How are you, sir?
Mate, there's two. I'd love to see The Prisoner
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you mean
and
Prisoner.
can't go past Simon Townsend's Wonderworld.
Right.
That's a good idea.
Now, sure, I think Prisoner's already out on DVD, isn't it?
Well, in actual fact, in September, they're bringing out the world's biggest box set.
Really?
Every single episode of Prisoner, 692 episodes.
692!
With a gold disc of special features.
I love it, guys.
That means episode 517 will be included, where, of course, our own Greg Fleet plays Delivery Man number 2. Let's finally see what the fuss is all about.
Hello there, Sam. How are you, sir?
I'm with you, and I want to see It's a Knockout as well. But I also want to see the Leyland brothers.
Leyland.
Spectacular choice.
Where would the Masters be there? At Leyland Brothers World, do you think?
Yeah, under that fake Ayers rock. Just outside of Newcastle. It's a vault now.
Now, for younger listeners, how would you describe the Leyland's approach to things, Sam?
Basically, let's just go driving out through the outback and running over kangaroos and just, pretending to know about nature.
A lot of describing rocks,
Pretending
I
to know
remember.
about nature.
Because they were just in it for the roadkill, apparently. Great ideas. Keep them coming.
G'day, Mick.
Oh, it's got to be the class of 74, doesn't it?
Oh, class. Now, for people who can't remember back that far, what was going on?
One of the characters was named Tony, and he used to, he was an 18-year-old bloke, I reckon, but he played a 14-year-old. He used to beat all the other kids up.
Well, I have really good news for you too, because Class of 74 is coming.
Oh, fantastic.
Ooh.
Well, what was the general idea with Class of 74? Because it was only planned to go one series. When it went to 75, was it then going to be Class of 75?
When it went to Class of 75, it went into colour too. I mean, that was the great thing. It went to a boarding school in 75, co-ed boarding school. But in Class of 74, black and white, sexy co-ed Waratah High.
Wow.
Anne Lambert, lots of great
What's the theme
actors.
song?
The theme song by Brian Cadd.
Yes, a caddy classic.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's great when they have to keep updating 75, because I see Space 1999 is out on DVD
Yes,
now.
it is.
It's a futuristic show set in the past.
Yeah.
Might want to check that one out.
G'day, Scott. How are you?
Well, I'm really running out of ideas for Christmas presents for my 84-year-old nana, so what about the Sullivans?
Oh, yes. Is there a big-ass box set coming?
Look, I hope Crawfords are listening to this because Crawfords are sort of reluctant to release their stuff. It's all they're waiting to do. I'd strip the whole Crawfords catalogue if I could.
See, the
And the Sullivans is there to be done.
And the thing about the Sullivans is no music rights issues. It's not going to be like Wah Wah Nee in the background at Jack's pub.
The Andrews sisters aren't really around to complain about copyright today, thank goodness.
G'day, Graham.
Now, back when I was a little boy, back in the early 70s, I don't recall the show, but it was like an adventure series starring very young Rowena Wallace called The Rovers.
Yeah.
Oh, what was the Rovers?
The
Andrew?
Rovers. Yeah, The Rovers was like 1969, and she was up on a boat. There was a young boy with blonde hair. There was a cockatoo, and they basically just travelled around Barrier Reef Islands and swam and snorkeled. The Rovers is there, yeah.
It was a great show. I remember
was a
when
great
I was
show.
pretty little.
And then it spun off into Barrier Reef. That was the
wow.
sequel show.
Are there enough blank discs to fit all this stuff on,
I
Andrew?
know it. I know.
I just love the idea that there is a massive warehouse somewhere with all of these DVDs in.
Sounds good to me.
How else can we fill some?
Ready? Hello there, Will. How are you?
Good, how are you?
What would you like to see?
Paradise Beach.
Yeah.
Wow.
Andrew worked on that very show.
A lot of famous actors got their first part there. Isla Fisher, Kimberly Joseph.
Joseph, yeah. Very hot.
And no call to erase them all and put football games over the top?
I don't think so. The Village Roadshow is sitting on that gold mine. That is Paradise Beach. And you know what? We could also release it in Nordic countries like Scandinavia and Sweden where the show was huge.
Really?
Is that right?
Massive. There were actually, in Italy, they had Paradise Beach pencil cases.
Muy bueno.
Excited about that, are you, Will?
Oh, yeah.
Paradise Beach fans do a lot of writing. You need a pencil case.
Absolutely right.
Thank you, everyone who called in. Andrew Mercado, it's been a treat having you
Oh,
in.
thank you. I love talking TV with you guys.
Get this at the new time of 2 o'clock.
Or in Adelaide, 3 o'clock.
On the Triple M Network.